everyone, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be sharing two different ways to add some foiling to your cover plate die cuts. If you haven't already, be sure to follow me across social media. You're going to find all those links down in the description box below. Also, if you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my videos. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That always helps so much. Now this video is part of the Cat Scrappiness blog hop and sale to benefit the Coffee Oasis. There's going to be a lot of information over on my blog. I will leave that link down below as well, so you can find out all about this great hop and also how to win some prizes. There are a ton of different sponsors. Here's a look at all of them. Like I said, be sure to follow those links down below because this is going to be part of a very large blog hop to benefit the Coffee Oasis and put together by Cat Scrappiness store. Now, I am going to be using one of the Cat Scrappiness cover plate dies. This is the Floral Burst die. It is gorgeous. It's A2 size, so it is a full card panel size, which I absolutely love. You don't need much more to make a beautiful card than this. This is what it looks like. I went ahead and die cut it from some white cardstock just because I get a better idea. Like I said, it's full A2 size. This I'm going to be using to make Christmas cards today, but I think this would be gorgeous year-round, to be honest. And I'll have some more techniques and whatnot coming up in future videos since they are so much fun to play around with. I'm going to go ahead and start by cutting this die from some Suk Wong, I believe that's how you pronounce it, adhesive. It's a big 6x6 adhesive sheet, essentially. Now, I'm not attaching this to cardstock or anything. I'm just die cutting it from the adhesive first. I like to go ahead and die cut this with my Big Kick. My Big Kick is about, if not, older than 10 years. So it has seen a lot of love. That being said, it doesn't put as much pressure as a newer machine does. So with really intricate dies like this, what I like to do is go ahead and start by running it through my die cutting machine a few times. I get the outline cut out, and then I can go ahead and take away that excess piece of adhesive around there. But it's not going to cut for me all at once the first time because of my old machine. It's nothing to do with the die. It's just mine has lost a little bit of pressure, and it's also a little wonky on the pressure. So one side has a little bit more than the other side. It's just the nature of die cutting machines as they get older. So to make sure that I get a nice clean cut all the way through, I like to go ahead and rotate it 90 degrees each time I run it through my die cutting machine until I get it all the way around. So 360 degrees all the way around, and that way I know I'm going to get a nice clean cut. Now, if your machine still won't cut it out because these are very intricate, you can go ahead and use the metal cutting plate as well, the adapting plate that is for intricate dies. Or you can go ahead and shim yours with a few pieces of cardstock. You just want to make sure that you're not shoving anything through. Make sure that it goes through kind of voluntarily. You'll know it when you feel it if you're forcing it through. That's a good way to break your machine. Now, because I'm using an adhesive sheet, this all kind of gets stuck in the die. So I have to come in and manually pop out each one of these little pieces. I know this seems like a lot of work, but I promise that the finished card is well worth this effort. I like to just take my paper piercing tool and start punching each one. I keep my die in my die, or my die cut in my die. Man, that is a tongue twister. And I do it over a small bowl to keep everything kind of well contained on my desk. I'll show you an easier way if you're using cardstock or a heavier weight paper in my next technique, I promise. This one though, I like to go ahead and just leave it in there and push each one of those little pieces out. Once you get a good rhythm going, it doesn't take that long. I went ahead and I'm going to take off the backing paper to this die. Now, instead of trying to put this on an A2 size panel and really fussing around and making sure I don't get any weird lumps and bumps and all that stuff, I decided to just take my die cut and place it on a larger piece of cardstock. I'm using 8.5 by 11 here, but you can use any size that's larger. This is just going to give you a lot of leeway to go ahead and get this placed on a piece of cardstock, and you're not worrying about position so much. You're just worried about getting this smoothed down. So I start at one end and then just continually go down the die and press this down, making sure that it's not stretching or bending or doing any weird things. Then I'm going to go ahead and take my bone folder and just give it a good press. Make sure it's really attached to that piece of cardstock before I come and add anything. For both of my cards today, I am using Deco Foil's gold foil. It's a very classic foil, and it's just gorgeous. I mean, you really can't beat a great gold foiled card. If you have any little pieces of the backing paper that get stuck, just go ahead and get them off with a straight pin is what I'm using. You can also use your paper piercer. You just don't want to stick your hands in it too much. That way your oils and things don't get rid of any of the sticky and then your foil won't stick to it. So I'm taking that gold foil, I'm putting it with the shiny side up right over my die cut, and then I'll just start pressing it down. Now to begin with, I'm going to go ahead and place a piece of computer paper over that and really start pressing it with my bone folder. This is going to keep it from getting too many scratches and really dulling the foil too much. Once you get to a certain point, I find it better to go ahead and remove that top paper and really start to get in to the cracks and crevices with your bone folder and give it some good pressure. You can even, if you're feeling like your bone folder isn't getting into all of those little pieces, you can take your finger and rub into those pieces too. Really give it some good pressure and some heat to get that to transfer. You'll know this is starting to transfer when it starts to release and move around on its own. That means that the foil is sticking to the paper or the adhesive, and you're releasing the rest of it where no adhesive is. So just keep pressing that in, give it some good pressure. It's going to dull the effect of the foil a little bit. You're going to get more of a burnished look because you are burnishing it onto adhesive, but it is a gorgeous finished project. There is a closer look at that once I take up the remainder of the foil, and you've got this really smooth, intricate foiled piece of cardstock. You also have this negative space. I think it's negative. I never get the negative and positive right. But I'm going to show you how you can use that too. So you really get two cards out of one technique. You can do this for both of them as well. I only did this technique for this first one that I did, but you can use the negative for both of them. Now, like I said before, I wanted to go ahead and put down that adhesive onto a larger piece of cardstock. That allowed me to really worry about getting it smoothed out onto the cardstock rather than placement. So then I just take my paper trimmer and you can just cut it out. I mean, you can use scissors, whatever you have on hand. I just like this a little bit easier. It saves me a lot of stress in the long run, worrying about getting it down and then having to rip it up, and then I rip paper and all that jazz. So this works a little bit better for me. Once I had that down, I want to show you a close-up of the finished result of the foil. Like I said, it loses a little bit of its shine whenever you burnish it, but it is a gorgeous finished look. You can also use the negative space for both of these techniques. I'm just going to show you this one, and what I like to do is take a little bit of liquid glue and just place it where all those little foil pieces are left. That's going to hide the liquid adhesive on your card. So this takes a little bit of time, but it's a great way to get more use out of your products. You're not throwing this away. I mean, it really is gorgeous. So I hate throwing these things away. So I'll just go ahead and put it on another. One thing to think about whenever you're doing this though is you are adhering a shiny surface to a piece of cardstock. So it's a very slick, non-porous surface. You want to make sure you're using a very strong adhesive, whether that be the liquid adhesive or if you decide to use like a tape adhesive, make sure it's strong enough to hold something like this onto a piece of cardstock. I went ahead and took some more liquid adhesive, ran it around the four edges of an A2 sized white cardstock panel. Then I'll just go ahead and place this right over the top of that foil, try and line it up as best I can. I will cut this one down a little bit and actually add a frame to it later on, so I'm not completely worried about exact placement, but you want to get as good of placement as you can. I just like to give this a good press down, make sure all those glue bumps are kind of smoothed out and they kind of disappear. Heavy on top, and I let that dry. Now for my next card, I'm going to be using toner sheets. I'm using the peel and stick toner sheets from Decofoil. These are great because they already have adhesive on the back of them, but you can use toner sheets you make at home with the laser printer. I'm going to run that through with that cover plate die just like I did the first time. The only difference is whenever this comes out, it's going to peel right away from that die, and all those little bits and pieces are left in the die itself. So I like to take one of those sticky rollers that you use for pet hair, just roll that over the surface and pick up all those little inlay pieces. It saves you a lot of time from poking each one out. I'm going to run everything through my laminator now. So I'm doing this just like you would any other die cut. I've got my carrier sheet. This is my first time using a parchment paper carrier sheet. I put my die in with the toner side facing up and my foil in with the shiny side facing up, the dull side facing the toner. Then I ran this through my heated up laminator. Now this is my first time, like I said, using a parchment paper carrier sheet. I had to show you what happened with me in case this happens to you. The parchment paper actually got stuck in my laminator, not the die itself. The die actually kept running through just perfectly fine, while the parchment paper did like accordion style and got stuck in there. So I want to show you how I get this out. So I went ahead and let the die come out the rest of the way, shut off my laminator, and I actually did turn the heat off before, so it wasn't putting out any more heat. Then I stick in tweezers and then just shimmy out the paper as best I can. I won't be using parchment paper again. It didn't work out for me. If it works for you, great. Just didn't work out for me, and I wanted to show you how to get that out of your laminator. It's not completely ruined. So I ran this through one more time because I did have that mishap. Let it cool off, and then it was time to peel away the gold foil once it was cool. I should mention my carrier sheet, my second one, was just computer paper folded in half, which I've used for well over a year and a half now, and it's worked perfectly fine for me. There's a closer look at that foil all on that paper. Again, you've got that nice negative space you can use, just like I did the first one. Apply some glue to the back of it and put it on some cardstock too. For this one, I am going to go ahead and take off that backing paper that is on the toner sheet. Like I said, it's got that adhesive already on there ready to go, so you just take off the backing paper, and then I'll place this down on an A2 sized. If you didn't want to mess around with getting everything just perfect like I did on the last one, you could always put this on a larger piece of cardstock and trim around it too. This just is a little bit easier to work with because it's that heavier weight of paper. There's a closer look at the gold foil with the toner sheets and adhering it with the laminator. This gives you a little bit more of a shiny surface, but you've also got this great other technique if you don't have a laminator on hand or the toner sheets and you really want to get some gold foil on your Christmas cards or any card for that matter. You can also use those negative spaces like I showed before and get this other great panel out of just your one foiled product. I love techniques where you can get a couple of projects out of just the one. So I wanted to finish these cards off. I am using this Poppy Stamps clear stamp and die set. It's got this great Merry Builder sentiment in it. So what I like to do with my die cuts that have a matching stamped image, I go ahead and cut out my die, and I do it from some scrap paper as well. I place this in my MISTI. I've got a nice little square corner there, so I can place that in my MISTI and then put my stamp that matches the die right inside of that cutout. I can line it up, pick it up with the lid of my MISTI, and then insert a die right into that space that's in that scrap piece of paper. I'll ink up my stamp. For this one I'm using Versamark ink. For all of them I'm using Versamark ink, and I can stamp it down and know it's going to be perfect every single time. So I'm doing 3 cards today, which isn't that bad to line up each and every time. However, if you're doing bulk Christmas cards or bulk get well cards or cards for your church or whatever, nursing homes, and you have a lot of them that you need to do, this is a great way to where it really speeds up the process and you don't have to line up each and every one, or you don't have one mistake and then you've got to go cut more die cuts. Now once I had all those stamped out, I heat embossed those with some gold embossing powder from Ranger, and then I die cut 2 more for each one. So I die cut a total of 9 times and then layered up 3 apiece for each card. with the stamped one being on top. This is going to give me a nice chipboard effect and help those die cuts pop out from that very bright background. I went ahead and placed those on with some more adhesive. This is liquid adhesive. Again, you want to make sure you're using a nice strong adhesive. Then I built up different sentiments for each one. Each sentiment I stamped on a different color of cardstock, and I stamped those with Versamark ink and heat embossed each one with some of that same gold embossing powder that I used for the Mary. I attached each one with a little bit of dimensional adhesive, and then I put each one onto an A2 card base. Here is a closer look at all the finished cards. So the first one with the laser printer, with the laser toner sheets, it says have yourself a Merry Christmas. My burnished foil says we wish you a Merry Christmas. And then for my third one, which is the negative space, it says Merry and Bright. And to cover up those edges, I added a green frame, which finished off all the cards for today. This was a long video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. There are going to be links on the left side of your screen you can click on. Don't forget to check out all the information for the blog hop down below. Thanks for watching and happy crafting.